minus 30 seconds.
DeAndre Hopkins! Justin Jefferson, have a day! What a catch! C.D. Lamb! Only this guy, I think. I mean, maybe I'm trying to think of somebody else.
And he hurdles his way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Oh, snared for the interception by Kenny Moore!
2, 1, 0.
Catch your breath. Holy mother. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the final episode of the inaugural season of The Final Drive. I am your host, Josh Frey-Sam. As always, big time show today. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are joining us live right after Sunday Night Football, Week 18, the very first of its kind in NFL history. Records were set today. Coaches were fired. The playoff picture was set in stone, most importantly, and also futures bets came to fruition as they did for myself. But today we got a big time episode. Like I mentioned, we are bringing in Arash Madani from Sportsnet to talk about the Vikings and all things football. But first, let me bring in my guy from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and the Winnipeg Free Press to talk about and bring this whole season together to a wrap. Mr. Taylor Allen, how you doing, sir? How was Week 18 for you?
I'm good, man. Always a pleasure to be on the show. It's kind of funny. I woke up this morning. I was like, Week 18, like whatever. I wasn't really all that excited about it, to be honest. But now I'm sitting here tonight. It's like, wow, that was a very exciting day of football. So now I feel kind of like an idiot for thinking that this morning. But yeah, that was crazy and a crazy way to cap it off, obviously.
You weren't alone in thinking that. I'll tell you that, because and that's actually what I was going to bring my first question to you, man, was going to be, how did you feel about Week 18? Because entering this week, I was kind of feeling like, okay, we should be in wild card weekend here. You know, like I want to be just watching some meaningful playoff football here. Not that Week 17 and Week 16, Week 18 were not meaningful, but Week 18 for me was just kind of like, with all of these records possibly being broken, and then honestly, there really weren't that many teams playing for something significant here, right? Like Week 17, if it had ended last week, I mean, we ended off with a bang. It would have been awesome, right? But this week, how did you feel about Week 18 as a whole? Like preseason, how did you feel about it when the rule got changed, and now how are you feeling about it now that you've actually had to live it?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, even though today was like an awesome day of football, some really good games, still not a huge fan of it. I mean, it was a 16-game schedule since 1978. Like that's a really long time. And then you look at it too, like with 17 games, half the teams in the league, they're playing 9 games on the road, and then the other half gets 9 games at home. So it's kind of a disadvantage there to some teams as well. So I don't really love that. And then with the records too, you kind of mentioned that as well. Like Jalen Waddle getting the rookie reception record today,
right?
It's cool, but it's like,
is there an asterisk? Is there an asterisk? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Anquan Bolden had that record for 20 years, and then the 1 year where there's a bonus game, Waddle breaks it. I mean,
yeah, I
don't know. I mean, still an incredible accomplishment, and Jalen Waddle is still phenomenal, but like, I don't know, just like it doesn't really mean the same. And then with TJ Watt, even with the sack record, I mean, that's cool too. He did miss a couple of games this year, so you could argue that.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the big thing with records, though, is the ability to stay healthy all year long. And he didn't do that. So for me, I don't think he deserves to be tied with Michael Strahan. So, but at the end of the day, Josh, all it comes down to is money. The NFL is making more money the next week, and that's all that really matters to them. So it doesn't really matter what you and I say. But as a fan of football and a guy who loves history and preserving and stuff like that, personally, not a huge fan.
I 120% agree with you. And the playoffs were something that I had to get used to. I'm a little bit more open to the 7-team playoff, the current structure with it. I'm still not a huge fan of it, but I'm a little bit more open to it. Number 1 seed becomes that much more important, which I can buy into a little bit. But the 18-week season, yeah, like in terms of just injuries and stuff like that, like keeping guys like long term. I mean, maybe you could argue one game isn't going to make that big of a difference, but 18 weeks for injuries, records, just the whole shebang. But like you mentioned, comes down to money, and that is they made their money, especially tonight. Big news from this week. I just really want to touch on the Indianapolis Colts, because this was bad. Like they turned into honestly one of the more disappointing teams now in the entire season in the grand scheme of things. And we're going to get into things right away here. But I mean, Frank Reich in my opinion, I didn't tweet this out, but I was on the verge of doing it. But Frank Reich, this is the kind of loss, in my opinion, where it's kind of like the kindling to get your seat a little bit warm heading into next season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that Frank Reich's job is in question or anything like that. But I'm just saying this is kind of like the kindling, you know what I mean? The beginning. Now, next season, if the Indianapolis Colts aren't faring so well at some point, then I think the seats really starts to get warm. Now they have some ammo to use. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And even though like the Raiders Chargers game was super exciting to me, I'm glad you mentioned this game first, because to me the Colts totally falling flat on their face against the Jaguars is the story of the day, in my opinion. Yeah, Frank Reich, I agree. Like, I mean, no one's going to talk about him getting canned this offseason, but going into next year, if they miss the playoffs again, then yeah, he's probably toast. But Carson Wentz is the story of the day. I mean, the story of the Colts, at least. Just a despicable performance. And then you look back at that trade now. I mean, all season, I mean, he started out the year pretty well. And so it kind of looked like a fair deal. But now you look at the trade. The Eagles got a top 20 pick. They saved over $100 million in cap space, a third-round pick as well. And the Eagles, I know they didn't beat anyone this year, but they're in the playoffs and the Colts aren't. So a terrible trade for the Colts, at least it looks like that right now, and I doubt that's going to change. So just a huge, terrible disappointment for the Colts and their fans. But on the flip side of that, the Jaguars, what an absolute perfect day for them. I mean, you win the game, and Trevor Lawrence has his best game as a rookie. He looked really well. He looked really good today. And despite the win, you still get the first overall pick. So if you're in Jacksonville, you're living the dream right now.
Yes, that was a big time day for Jacksonville Jaguars fans after what was a very disappointing season. I expected this team to be around the 4, maybe even 5 win mark. Maybe that was me expecting a little bit too much out of Trevor Lawrence and company and Urban Meyer. But this is definitely a disappointing season from these guys overall, capped off in a really nice way. Let's change gears. We're going to bring Arash in about 8 minutes time here, but let's change gears to the playoff picture really quickly. Let's take a look at this. This is the final playoff picture, man. This is it. This is what we're dealing with for the next 5-6 weeks here until I believe February 13th. Looking at this, 7 new playoff teams in this season. Which wild card matchup, Taylor, are you looking forward to the most on each side? AFC, give me one from AFC, one from NFC. Yeah,
starting with the AFC, I don't think either one of these teams is really going to go on a deep run, but I think the Raiders-Bengals is going to be a super fun game. And if everything goes according to plan, I'm kind of contradicting myself here. If everything goes according to plan, the winner of that will play the Titans, who I think are probably like the least respected number 1 seed that we've seen in quite a few years. No one's giving them any love, and today's performance didn't really help their case either. So who knows? Maybe whoever wins the Bengals Raiders can maybe sneak their way into the AFC Championship game, and from there they probably get smoked. But I think that'll be a really fun game. Both teams kind of fun stories. I mean, Derek Carr, have to be super happy for a guy like that, such a class act, and everything that the Raiders have been through this year. Just a total nightmare off the field. The fact that they're in the playoffs and Derek Carr gets to play his first playoff game in the NFL is super cool. And the Bengals have been a disaster for years, and now they got arguably the most exciting offense in the league, and a team that's going to be, a force to be reckoned with for the next couple of years here. So it'll be fun to see them get a taste of the playoffs. But in the NFC, I think I'd go Rams and Cardinals. I mean, they're division rivals. Those two teams do not like each other. It's going to be fun to see Matthew Stafford, see what he could do with his first time in the playoffs in quite a while. Kyler Murray, solid quarterback as well, so that's going to be a fun matchup. So at the same time, I think both those teams are probably disappointed to be the 4 or 5 seed. I mean, at the beginning of the year, they looked like teams that could have been the number 1 seed, and they stumbled a little bit down the stretch here. So I think they're kind of upset to be where they're at, but that'll be a fun game to watch for sure.
Yeah, and I like those picks from you. I'm actually going to go with 2 different games from the AFC. I'm going to go Bills versus Pats, and this is just strictly now that it's come down to a divisional game in the wild card round. Bills and the Pats, they've had 2 pretty good games this year. I think they've each gotten the best of each other on separate occasions. Josh Allen has really got to step up and just carry his team right here with his legs and his arm at this point, right? Like the Bills don't have a running game without Josh Allen. If he's running, that team is winning. If he's not, then that's tough. But Pats are Pats are at this point, they are kind of struggling a little bit. They're a little bit sluggish right now. They're kind of a little bit cold. We'll see how they fare, but that one could be a really good one out of the gates in the wild card. And then also in the NFC, we have Cowboys versus the Niners. And this one is interesting because I've been tweeting a lot about the Cowboys as of late. Cowboys are kind of not really buying in all to their hype right now. They've been winning 4 out of their last 5, like the Niners have, but they haven't really been doing it in the same kind of fashion the Niners have. Now but the Cowboys now have a top passing offense going up against one of the top passing defenses in the Niners. Niners have one of the top rushing offenses going up against about an average running defense in Dallas. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup to watch. And honestly, the Niners are a team for me. I said it about a month ago. The Niners are a team for me who, if I'm a wildcard team, I do not want to play the San Francisco 49ers. Say what you want about Jimmy G. I don't care. Their defense, coupled with their run game and with their playmakers that they have now, they have a healthy George Kittle. Debo Samuel is rolling as well. This is not a team that I want to play right now. So those are my 2 matchups going into this one. Who are you highest on right now entering the postseason, would you say?
Well, honestly, like I know you're going to say the Packers for yourself personally.
Absolutely, I will.
But for me, I think I go with the Chiefs, and I hate to say that. I feel like that's kind of a boring pick and whatnot. But again, kind of what I said about the Titans, they're not really getting any respect. I feel the Chiefs. I mean, a team from the AFC without a first-round bye has not made the Super Bowl in the last 8 years. I think that streak is finally going to snap. The Chiefs on defense, they're starting to pick it up a little bit here. They've been there, they've done that. And the AFC to me is pretty open. Obviously the Bills are a big threat, and again the Titans are solid. But I think for the most part, like I can't really see anyone in the AFC taking the Chiefs down. So I don't really want to see them in the Super Bowl again. But for me, I think they've kind of figured it out. I mean, they didn't look very good at the beginning of the year, but they kind of seem like they're back to their old ways now. So I think the Chiefs are definitely kind of the team to beat overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if I'm going to go one from each conference, I'm going to say Packers and Chiefs. For me, I mean, the Packers are pretty easy for me just because if you look at the NFC and how there's been teams that in the number 1 seed and then they've dropped down, there's been so much fluctuation all over the NFL. But there's honestly been, if you look at in the grand scheme of things, there's been one team who's kind of been solid throughout the entirety of the season. It has been the Green Bay Packers. Like even the Chiefs, who are now in the number 1 seed, they went through their little dip throughout the season. The Packers have just been kind of quietly just staying high throughout the entire season. You know, I mean, this is the team. They're hot, they're healthy, they're getting healthy. Give me the Packers as the team I'm feeling best about, and then the Chiefs on the AFC side of things. I mean, like you just finished mentioning, I think they're back to their old ways. What about teams that you're maybe kind of a little bit cautious of, a little bit weary of, and looking out for right now going into the playoffs?
I'm pretty low on the Rams, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, the last
good.
Yeah, the last time I was on here, Josh, I think both you and I think it was the midway point of the year, both of us had Matthew Stafford kind of as our MVP pick at the least the midway point of the season. In these past 4 weeks, he's thrown 8 interceptions. He's turning the ball over. I think losing Robert Woods has hurt this team kind of a lot more than people maybe thought it would. Odell Beckham Jr., he's had some moments, but at the same time, it's obvious that he hasn't doesn't have the full grasp of the offense as well. I mean, I think the last 4 weeks, he hasn't had 50 yards receiving. So it's kind of just been the Cooper Kupp show, which has been phenomenal. I mean, the guy's been the best receiver and arguably the best player on offense in the league this year. But he can't do it all by himself. So the Rams, and also the Rams, that they're 1-3 this season against the Niners and Cardinals. So they've kind of struggled against some of the better teams this year as well. So I don't know. For me, for a super team, they don't seem all that super to me. So I don't think this is a team that's capable of going on a run and winning the Super Bowl. So for me, I'm pretty low on the Rams.
Yeah, I'll second that, but just to go somewhere different, I'll go with actually the Buffalo Bills. And even though I just finished mentioning how I think that that is one of the more intriguing games against the Pats in Super Wild Card weekend, I'm going to say it is the Bills, and it is for the reason that I mentioned. They seem to need to rely on Josh Allen's legs in order to get it done. If Josh Allen is not rolling with his legs, teams are able to sit back in coverage, and Josh Allen doesn't really have anywhere to go with the ball. And if he's not running, they're not rolling really. And so Bills are going to be my biggest the lowest team that I'm on entering the playoffs here. We'll see if they can scuzz out a victory and head on into the second round. You want to know what, man? We got some other stuff to do, but let's incorporate Arash into this, man. Let's bring in our guy right now. It is my pleasure to bring in a Vikings fan, Taylor, you're going to resonate with this guy a lot. Vikings fan, a host, a reporter, an anchor, journalist all together. This guy does it all, man. It is my pleasure welcoming to the final drive, Mr. Arash Madani. Oh, boy. Here we go. We're starting off hot. Arash, how you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. I'm doing well. I just watched Daniel Carlson, the Vikings draft pick, go perfect this regular season at home and drill 5 field goals to send his team to the playoffs a few hours before Mike Zimmer's getting fired. So that's not there's not some poetry in that little sequence. I don't know what is.
Yeah, man, this has been quite the season for you guys and your Vikings. There's been a lot of there was a little bit of optimism coming into the season with you guys, with your guys bringing in Patrick Peterson. You guys had Anthony Barr and whatnot. Arash, I already see you have some emotion on your face there. Talk to me. What's kind of been who or what has been your kind of biggest disappointment so far of this season?
When you give an idiot $40 million to be your quarterback and he's a pile of crap, that's what your season is going to end up being. And that's exactly what Kirk Cousins is, and that's exactly what the Vikings season ended up becoming. This is a dude who's 7-21 or 7-26 against teams with a winning record as a member of this organization. It's fitting. An idiotic signing is gonna get all these guys fired. And so goodbye. Good night.
So what were your expectations then leading into the season, and then what's kind of the grade that you would give the team overall? Is it just going to hinge on Kirk? Obviously, it's the quarterback and makes it go or not, but as a team, what were your kind of expectations leading into the season, and then what's the kind of grade you would give the team?
Around this, not good enough, crap. Expanded playoffs, maybe you get in the last spot, or maybe you don't. Didn't expect them to lose to Detroit. That may have been the difference in getting in or not, but they're just not good enough. It's not a good enough offensive line. Adam Thielen might be the most overrated number 2 receiver in the game. They have a world-class number 1. They have an outstanding running back. They have a stubborn coach who doesn't adjust. And corners, as nice as Peterson is when healthy and available, he wasn't healthy and available all that often. So this has all been very inevitable with the Vikes. So now it's just a matter of cleaning house and really cleaning out as much of that roster as possible, and hopefully trading Cousins and that $45 million cap hit away to Denver, some other hopeless franchise that's willing to take it.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Well, I met Arash briefly in Hamilton, actually, for Grey Cup week. He gave me and my colleague Jeff Hamilton a ride, and we kind of bonded a little bit over our misery being Vikings fans. But I don't hate Kirk quite as much as Arash does, but I'm not exactly his number 1 fan either. You won't see me wearing a number 8 jersey on Sundays. So, but for me, the Vikings, I thought they'd be a little better this year. I mean, they made so many signings on defense and whatnot, so you kind of figure, like, okay, Zimmer, you got the tools to kind of get this defense back to where they've been in the past couple of years, but they didn't. They totally fell flat, and it was terrible. On offense, it's been the same story the past couple of years, or forever. It feels like the offensive line is garbage. Kirk puts up good numbers in garbage time when the game is basically over. So when the season ends, he has these sparkling stats and whatnot. But at the end of the day, when the game really matters, I mean, he tends to not get it done as well. So for me right now, it's a very frustrating place for them to be, because it's like, what do they do? Yes, they could trade Kirk Cousins to the Cleveland Browns or Denver or even Pittsburgh or something like that. But then what? Like this year, they have the 12th overall pick.
You stop drafting nickel corners in the first round year after year after year. You start there.
Well, that's the thing too. Like Zimmer, he's known as the cornerback whisperer. I mean, he's supposed to be the guru, but he hasn't been. I mean, why is our secondary still a problem when they've invested that much draft capital into it? Same as the offensive line. Why is the offensive line still crap when they've invested so many high picks into that? Like Garrett Bradbury, oh my goodness, that guy's the worst center in the league. So for the Vikings, I don't know. You trade Kirk, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of really bad quarterbacks wear purple over the years, and Kirk, whether you like him or not, he's the best out of the bunch that we've seen probably in the last 10 or so years. But
I disagree. I fully
think Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater?
Todd Bridgewater, the year they won the division, went into Lambeau week 17 and kicked the shit out of them in Green Bay. if not for a Blair Walsh missed field goal. The trajectory of this franchise changed the moment Bridgewater put his knee into the turf on the last snap of practice and his knee blew up. Because then they just started chasing it. Then they started they overvalued what they were as a football team. They traded a 1 and a 4 for Bradford. Remember that? They traded a 1 and a 4 for Sam Bradford.
There's a lot of people who gave Sam Bradford or overvalued Sam Bradford.
Hey, he looked amazing for a hot minute, and then his knees fell apart. But yeah.
4 weeks, and then on it went. So I would say that Bridgewater has been by far the best quarterback they've had. Kirk Cousins won 1 playoff game, the same number Case Keenum won, and Case Keenum was there for 1 season.
I think the thing is, it's obvious that Mike Zimmer would agree with you. It's obvious that Kirk Cousins was never his choice. You could just tell that these two, they were never really on the same page. They were just kind of forced to kind of make it work. It's been this very awkward relationship and whatnot. One guy says this, the other guy says that. So it's been a total disaster on that front as well. And actually, when Everson Griffin, about a year or two ago, when he kind of had this huge blow up on Twitter, he even tweeted about that, saying that Zimmer, he didn't even want Kirk. This wasn't his guy, and it's kind of obvious now that probably was true. So for me, Teddy Bridgewater is
coordinators. Right now it's Clint Kubiak, and it was Gary Kubiak, and it was John DeFilippo, and it was Kevin Stefanski, and on it goes. Right.
Defense, though, that's kind of a tough hand. You have a different offensive coordinator every single year, but at the same time, he's not the guy. But I'm just saying that's a tough hand, having a different guy every year.
He's not. And on that note, Arash, what I wanted to ask you is to put your owner's cap on. So you're Ziggy Wilf here, okay, for this off season. What's your move here? Because you've got Dalvin Cook probably playing his last season in 2022 for the Minnesota Vikings, or at least I would believe that he is, just based contractually. I mean, you're talking about after this season, he's going to be what, a 28-year-old running back with injury history, making like $14-15 million a year. You probably get out of that contract. Probably don't want to pay him that, right?
I pay.
You pay him that? Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see come 2023.
To me, the conversation about running backs are expendable is nonsense.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's I think it's an actual ridiculous deal. Who's the reason Tennessee is the number 1 seed right now is because the work Derrick Henry did leading into that injury. And the reason that people are afraid of them is because Derrick Henry's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You just watch that. You watch San Francisco trail by a couple of scores today. What did they do? It was power football. And if you can have a guy, and this is why I think Green Bay is going to be dangerous in January. They have 2 guys. They have 2 dudes who are built for January football with Jones and Dillon. So I think if you can have an every down back who can carry the load for you, Chargers are right there because of Eckler. The Raiders are in because of Jacobs. Teams with elite running backs and running games win. And if you remove Dalvin Cook from this Minnesota offense, what
tough
in the flying belief do you have on your offense? An exceptional receiver and
Kirk. Yeah. Well, so that's where I'm going with this though. So if what's your biggest move here and entering this offseason? I mean, you got Cook, you got Thielen, who's getting old here. You just mentioned he's overrated, number 2. Barr might be entering his last season, and he might be gone, right? Kirk Cousins might be. He's getting paid $45 million a year. So what's your move? You have your coach who is on the hot seat as well. Is Mike Zimmer gone for you? Is that your move? Is that what you want, or is that what you just think is going to happen?
That's what's going to happen. It's what has to happen. Mike Zimmer's not going to last 10 more hours as head coach in Minnesota. So what do you now do? Here's the issue. The issue is the franchise is a mess. They gave all of Zimmer's buddies all the money. there was no need to give Harrison Smith that absurd contract extension. You talk about a guy long in the tooth who's played a lot of snaps, who's really start to have some questions about. Harrison Smith's one of them. Can you get out of that contract? I think that's going to be very difficult to do. If you can get any value for it, goodbye Harrison Smith. I think Barr is gone. I guess you hope Danielle Hunter is going to be able to stay healthy for a little while. This has been 2 lost seasons for Hunter, effectively. Yeah. You keep Eric Kendricks. If you can get any value for Thielen, if you can get any value for any vet not named Cook, Jefferson, Kendricks, I do it. I think this is a full rebuild right now that needs to happen.
Yeah. Taylor?
Yeah, I wish I could disagree, but no, it's true. And the thing with Zimmer, though, like, I want him but at the same time, it's like, who do we replace him with? Like, you look at kind of the list of candidates, there's not one name that's really jumping out at me that's like, ooh, that's the guy I'm really excited that I hope that
probably not going better.
Exactly. Yeah, you go with like Kellen Moore and Eric Bieniemy, Doug Peterson. Like, none of these guys really jump off the page to me personally. But the way that just the league's going, I mean, these old 60-something-year-old defensive-minded guys, that's not the way the NFL's going. Like, you kind of need the next Sean McVay type of guy, and I mean, these guys don't really grow on trees either. So the frustrating thing is we kind of had that guy in house with Stefanski a couple of years ago.
He's a self-promoting politician. He's a snake. No, but I don't know. I kind of disagree with that at the same time because
who would you want to hire?
But Ron Rivera, for instance, just got hired, and Ron Rivera is not a young, analytic, offensive guru, and they got to the.
It was a mess. They needed a guy like that. They just needed someone to just kind of right the ship into somewhat of the right direction.
Guess what other franchise needs the same?
The Vikings, to an extent, not quite the way Washington needed it, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
They do.
I think that's a part of it. I think that's a part of it there. And you know, the Jets didn't hire an old school guy, but they hired a defensive guy when they brought Robert Saleh in. There's a lot of different ways this thing could go. But I don't know. I've watched a lot of the Chargers the last few weeks, and Brandon Staley is fundamentally responsible for this team missing the playoffs.
Why is he calling? Do you guys have an explanation for why he called that timeout at the end of the overtime?
Well, let's even go back a few weeks. Can you give me an explanation on how you're supposed to be a playoff team and you go into Houston and get run out of the gym by the Texans?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me on your own 18-yard line at a time in the game where points are hard to come by, you're going for it. Your 3rd and 1 play call is out of the shotgun to Eckler, knowing you're going to go for it on 4th down, and then you go right back to Eckler under center, you get stopped. Do you think those 3 points you gifted the Raiders end up mattering there? Mm-hmm. This game ended up being tremendous theater, and it was exciting, and it was exhilarating, and it went to overtime because somehow, some way, Justin Herbert manufactured not only 6 straight 4th down conversions, but a couple of flags, 4th and forever, a phantom defensive holding penalty. So yeah, I get that the young analytic guys have invented the game and have reimagined the game. I still think there's a lot of value in a guy like Doug Peterson coming in to run your football team.
And that's fair.
I'd be happy with Doug, especially if they draft a quarterback at 12, the pick they have. Yeah, I think Doug would be a great hire.
Yeah. Let's change gears just real quick here, just before we let Arash go. I wanted to go, Arash. Who's your biggest surprise of the season? Just looking at the whole entire NFL here. Who or what team is your biggest surprise of the year?
I kind of want to say Baltimore, but Lamar not being healthy down the stretch kind of evens that out. I mean, let's remember, guys, 5 weeks ago, Baltimore was 8-4, and 4 weeks ago, the Raiders were 6-7. And now the Ravens are on the outside looking in, and no team in football is hotter than Vegas right now. So I think that's part of it. I'll be honest, I'm surprised with Cincinnati. I didn't think it was going to happen for them this quickly. Burrow's something else.
He's special.
And he's special. And their window is the next 2 years. You win with your quarterback on a rookie contract. And I'm not that surprised about Cleveland because the coach is an idiot. And they were the better team on Christmas Day. And he just tried to be the smartest guy in the room. So I would say that New Orleans is the other one. But again, I guess Jameis was 5-2 as a starter, I guess. Then he got hurt. But I thought the Saints would be a little bit better, but that Michael Thomas drama just never really went away. And they never really had a quarterback they could rely on. So I think those are among the surprise teams.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would also put it the Eagles, honestly, just on the positive note. I would say that the Eagles are a big surprise for me. Like, I had this team as a rebuilding team entering this season. I did no way, shape, or form thought the Eagles were making the playoffs, even sniffing them. I thought they would be closer to the Jags record than their current record.
Except I'm just checking this now. I don't think the Eagles beat a team with a winning record this year.
Yeah, they're getting slandered for their strength of schedule. They're absolutely getting slandered for that. Taylor, what about yourself? What was your biggest surprise of the season here?
I think for me, it's more so a player. Who had Davis Mills having a better rookie season than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and Justin Fields? Probably everyone except for Mac Jones, really. Houston, I mean, you jump back to last offseason, total dumpster fire, laughing stock of the league. Everyone thought they were, just mission impossible to turn that team around. And it still might be, honestly. But Davis Mills, he kind of gives them like a sliver of hope here. So let's say they trade Deshaun Watson finally this offseason. Let's say they get 3 first-round picks and Davis Mills keeps progressing the way he does. I mean, they might, I'm not saying they're going to be winning the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, but they're on the path to something at least. So I think Davis Mills for me was kind of a fun surprise this year.
Davis Mills has definitely bought the Houston Texans a little bit of time because they might have gone from possibly looking in the quarterback market in what is expected to be not a great quarterback draft right now on the outside looking in to now they can probably sit tight and address another position of need right now. Arash, man, you've been really generous with your time, but before I let you go, we got to get a Super Bowl prediction from you. I need to know how you think this playoffs is going to shake out.
To steal a line from Al Michaels, nobody knows anything. I just don't think we know at all. Like,
okay, you can't go out like that though. I need a prediction.
I have to object from my friend Taylor's synopsis of the Rams. The Rams have had a 3-game win streak, a 4-game win streak, and a 5-game win streak this season. They had a 5-game win streak coming into today where they were literally a play away on numerous occasions from just ending that thing. Yeah, I know Stafford's been garbage lately, but that defense is ridiculous. So I just wouldn't want to play them. That's the only team in the NFC that scares me. No other team in the NFC scares me. The Rams do. So I guess they're my NFC prediction. Everybody's talking about KC, and I don't know how much magic fairy dust is left in these Raiders. It's a little bit of recency bias, but get hot, be healthy.
Absolutely.
And see what happens. Losing Ruggs is just huge for them because they don't really have a number one now, and you need a number one receiver. But there's nobody in the AFC that scares me.
Yep. That's how I feel as well.
How about this? Cincinnati and the Rams.
Whoa. Okay. I like that. I don't actually. I actually hate it. Cincinnati and Packers. I like it just because it's different than what we've heard, what we've been hearing. So. And
as long as it's not the Packers, then we're all winners.
I don't know if we're all winners. I don't know if we're all winners.
Yeah.
I think. Two-thirds of us are winners, maybe.
There you go.
But Arash, man, thanks so much for the time, man. Hopefully we can have you on again. Get some rest. I know it's late out there, but thanks very much for coming on. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs, man.
All right, guys.
Take care.
See you, Rash.
That was awesome, man. Thanks so much to Arash coming on. Taylor, we got some stuff to stuff to break down here before we get into our playoff prediction here. How we're going to wrap this thing up. But do you have a wild stat from this season that you was kind of like blowing you away, or like a player, a team, whatever? Do you have something that kind of blew you away this season?
I kind of already burned that with the Davis Mills comment that I made. But, however, I do have one more in my back pocket, I guess. Kenny Golladay signed a $73 million contract by the Giants. How many touchdowns did he catch this year?
Yes.
0.
I think he had none. And same with Kadarius Toney, right?
Actually, there was a hilarious play today where Fromm threw a beautiful deep pass to him, and Golladay barely, he didn't even extend his arms to catch it. Like, he just barely reached out. And it's just like, man, what a disaster of a contract that was for the G-men. Yeah, feel bad for Danny Dimes. They bring him this big target, and it totally doesn't work out whatsoever. So yeah. That'd probably be a stat to me. I don't think anybody had Golladay catching 0 touchdowns this year. So
I certainly did not. And honestly, New York Giants are kind of like a dumpster fire in their own right now. That's another team we probably could have got into. I mean, like, who knows with Daniel Jones? I'm still optimistic about him. Joe Judge, I was actually a kind of a fan of him when he first got hired. Now I don't know how I feel about him. I honestly would not hate to see him step out the door. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I would say Kenny Golladay was a huge surprise. I'm going to go with, I got 2. I'm going to say Derrick Henry. He hasn't played since week 8. I think Arash, he kind of alluded to it, saying how responsible Derrick Henry is for the Titans' current situation right now. But Derrick Henry hasn't played since week 8, and he finished the league 9th in rushing. He finished, I think on last night when the Dallas Cowboys were playing, Ezekiel Elliott, he eclipsed 1,000 scrimmage yards on the season, and whoever it was that was calling the game was, I think it was maybe Joe Buck or something, but they were talking about Ezekiel Elliott and how this is a big time, 4 years in a row or whatever it was that he's eclipsed 1,000 scrimmage yards. Derrick Henry eclipsed 1,000 scrimmage yards in 8 games this season. This dude that just kind of like speaks to, I think we kind of forget how ridiculously monstrous he was being at the beginning of the season, the first half of the season. But yeah, Derrick Henry, that was big time. The other thing that I will say, big time wild stat from this year, 33 games were decided on the final play of the game this year. 33 game winning plays on the final play of the game this year, which was the most in NFL history. So there was I love to see that. It's kind of like a heartwarming stat in a sense, just to know that our game of football is staying very much competitive. Our league in the NFL is very much competitive. A lot of things are coming down to these one-score games, as they always do, but this year even more so than ever. Do you have anything else to add, or do you want to get into our full playoff prediction here?
Yeah, just one thing on that. I mean, I think that kind of points to the parity in the league. I mean, this year just feels wide open. Usually every year there's kind of 2 teams that are like really ahead of the pack and whatnot. But this year, I mean, I know the Packers and Titans are number 1 seeds, and the Chiefs are up there too, and whatever. But like, to me, I think this thing's really wide open. Like, you could throw out any Super Bowl prediction, even kind of like the one Arash did, which is kind of not a common one, we'll say. And I think it's possible. I really think anything can happen. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all by that stat you threw out there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, the parity in this league this year, like, that might have been the word that was used the most this season was parity in this league. Yeah, we could have broke down Sunday Night Football. I just want to, on that note, I want to say Max Crosby was an absolute menace tonight. That guy was in the backfield nonstop. We kind of broke it down with Arash a little bit, talking about Brandon Staley using that timeout. Were there any kind of takeaways, like quick takeaways, that you had on this game, just from Chargers or the Raiders standpoint? I know everybody was begging for this to be a kneel down for an hour, which, if you thought that, shame on you. You don't understand that this is just we go and we play to win the game, man. We compete. Come on now. But did you have any takeaways from this one?
Well, it's kind of funny. It looked like this was headed towards a tie, so everyone was kind of on Twitter saying, well, if this thing is rigged, they're doing a masterful job at like making it, at hiding that, because this game is just so back and forth and crazy. It's awesome. But for me, biggest takeaway, even in a losing effort, though, Justin Herbert. I mean, fourth down, coming up big, hitting Mike Williams and whatnot. I mean, feel bad for the guy. He's had 2 amazing seasons. This guy is off to an incredible start to his career, and he's yet to make the playoffs. Again, it's only 2 years, but you just feel kind of bad that he's not really getting the help around him, to really get him over the hump and into the playoffs. So I'm sure we'll get lots of Justin Herbert in the playoffs in his career. But tonight was just, I mean, you can't hang this loss on him. He threw the ball, over 60 times, which is insane. But kind of Mahomes, he gets all the talk about being the face of the league and stuff like that. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple Herbert versus Mahomes, AFC title games, down the line here. Because I think these two guys are two of the best. Well, obviously Mahomes, but Herbert's up there. He's on the way there. So.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I think my connection's a little bit delayed right now, so I apologize about that. But yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Justin Herbert was really special. Derek Carr really didn't. He really didn't play that great of a game, in my opinion, tonight. He had that really one nice crazy throw to Zay Jones on the comeback route, but overall, Derek Carr was not that impressive for me tonight. I'm still a fan of his, though. I'm still very optimistic on him. I think he's still a starter in the NFL. But yeah, Justin Herbert was absolutely insane. And there was a point in time in this game where I was just kind of like, man, like, you guys aren't getting in the ball, your playmakers. You get into Austin Eckler, but you're not getting into Keenan Allen, you're not getting into Mike Williams. Like, why aren't you guys getting into the ball to your playmakers? And then Max Crosby was just having a night. He was being an absolute menace off the edge. So this game was a great way to end the NFL regular season. I'm really happy. This is the one really bright spot of week 18 in my mind. But let's go to our playoff predictions, man. I want you to maybe give me from wild card through the Super Bowl on each side of your conference here. But let's start with the AFC first. Who do you have AFC going from wild card through the Super Bowl?
Let me pull up the bracket here. Just set months ago, basically.
I'll put it up here.
Okay, perfect. There we go. So each matchup, you want me to
let's go AFC side, breaking down these matchups here.
Okay.
Quick predictions, I should say.
Well, Chiefs. I mean, I've been hyping them all show, so it'd be kind of silly to say Steelers. So Chiefs for sure. Patriots, one of the best stories of the season, but sorry, I kind of think they just can't really compete with the Bills in Buffalo in wild card weekend. Then, the Raiders are coming in hot and whatever, but I think the Bengals, they're basically coming off a week of rest. The rest of Joe Burrow this week and whatnot. And I just think that high-powered offense, just Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow and Bryan Edwards and Zay Jones, I just don't think they could keep up. And it doesn't look like Waller's really 100% himself yet either. So I think Bengals will win that one. Then jumping to NFC for wild card, Eagles, again, they didn't beat anybody this year. And Jalen Hurts, if you had him on your fantasy football team, you love the guy. But if you actually watch the Eagles play, like he's got a lot of flaws to his game for sure. So I can't see him taking down Brady. Niners, Cowboys, you talked about it, Josh. I think that's going to be a really fun game. Cowboys are definitely beatable. But, I mean, again, just Jimmy G, I don't really think he has too much magic left in him. So I'd go Cowboys in that one. And then despite me crapping on the Rams, I still think the Rams are going to win that first round game. The Cardinals, after, they started 10-0 or whatever it was, they've looked really beatable since then. So I think the Rams will win that one for sure.
Okay. And who are you leading up into now? What's your overall Super Bowl prediction, would you say, based on that?
Well, my Super Bowl prediction is what I do not want to happen. I would absolutely hate to see the Chiefs and Packers play in the Super Bowl. That would be my worst case scenario. I mean, I'd cheer for the Chiefs in that scenario, obviously, because I hate the Green Bay Packers and more specifically Aaron Rodgers more than anything on the face of the earth. But for me, the fact that I don't want that to happen, that means that is going to happen because the NFL has been very cruel to me in my lifetime. So I fully expect to see the Chiefs and Packers in the Super Bowl. And I know that's the most boring prediction ever. But again, I'm just speaking on past experiences. Usually the two teams that I don't want to see in the Super Bowl or in the finals in any sport is what ends up happening. So, and to throw that nonsense aside, I mean, those two teams are, probably the two best teams in the league as well. So Chiefs and Packers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give my prediction here. So on the AFC side of things, I'm gonna say it's gonna be all favorites that win this one. I think beats Pittsburgh, Buffalo beats New England. I'm gonna say Buffalo scuzzes out a victory against them, and I think that's gonna be a really, really close game. I'm also gonna say Cincinnati probably just got the best possible draw, because I think leading into tonight, they were going to play the New England Patriots before Sunday Night Football kicked off. I think that's who they were scheduled to play. And if they had played them, I actually probably would have had New England beat Cincinnati. But they're playing Las Vegas now, so I'm going to say Cincinnati gets that W, knocks out Las Vegas. Still a big moment for Las Vegas. And then I think eventually it's going to get to Kansas City. Just fast forwarding through here, I'm going to say Kansas City represents the AFC. And then on the NFC side of things, we have Tampa Bay beating Philadelphia. I think San Francisco beats Dallas. Okay. And then I also think Arizona surprises Los Angeles Rams. And then eventually the NFC Championship, I'm going to say Green Bay defeats the Arizona Cardinals en route to defeating the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium. And that is going to be my overall prediction, man. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny looking back just looking at the wild card round. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. Looking at the wild card round, neither one of us really picked very many upsets. But I mean, I just don't really think there's many going to happen. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. It'd be kind of fun. But yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
I got Arizona over LA Rams. I'm going to take that upset. I'll take that. I got Arizona going to the NFC Championship. I think that's and the reason why I got them going there, man, is just because I think JJ Watt, if he can come back as well, that's going to be big time for them. And we'll see what else they can, what other kind of magic they can make happen. We'll see if Kyler Murray can make something happen. I'm also just really not high on Tampa Bay right now. I think that with their injuries, coupled with just their injuries are really like showing, you know what I mean? Like there's a couple teams like with the Packers, for example, who've had a lot of injuries. They've been able to mask those injuries. Tampa Bay is just like, they do not look very good in my opinion. I'm very concerned about them as it stands. And then LA just doesn't really look very good overall. But yeah, Green Bay over Kansas City, lock that in. That's my Super Bowl prediction, man. Taylor, any parting words?
Just one thing on Tampa Bay. It's kind of funny that we didn't really mention them at all this entire show, but I think you're right. I mean, it feels silly to kind of write off Tom Brady, and I'm not saying we're doing that, but I know Antonio Brown's a head case, and we could have spent the whole hour just talking about him. But losing him, that's a big loss. And then you're already out with Chris Godwin as well, and Fournette's banged up as well. So yeah, they're not entering the playoffs on a high note whatsoever. So yeah, that's kind of music to the ears of the Packers for sure. So yeah, we're both being kind of boring with Packers and Chiefs, but honestly, yeah, that's kind of what I see what's going to happen. So
let me ask you this on the Antonio Brown note, because I think this was something that was circulating. Do you think Antonio Brown was the best receiver in Tampa Bay? I know that he was their number 3 option, but do you think that he was the best wide receiver in Tampa Bay?
That's kind of hard to say. I could see why he would say that, and I don't think he's crazy for saying that, but at the end of the day, I think he's kind of their number 3 option for a reason. Like last year, I mean, he got brought in midway through the year, so whatever. But this year, I mean, he had the full training camp and whatever to, be the top guy or second guy. And I guess, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to bump out Godwin or Evans, who've kind of been there for longer and kind of just been more, we'll just say steady mentally over their careers than Antonio Brown. But yeah, I can see why Antonio Brown said that, but personally, yeah, I'd still, probably go with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But
okay. Yeah, I actually do. I think he was the best receiver. They're like the most talented and just overall. I know, and I'm saying this as Mike Evans literally just caught like his 75th or 76th touchdown career catch and like 8th straight 1,000-yard season today. That's no disrespect to Mike Evans, but I just think like AB's talent is. I mean, AB has a Hall of Fame resume, and he's probably not gonna. I don't know if he's gonna make the Hall of Fame. Like he is a Hall of Famer though, based as numbers wise. You know what I mean? Statistically, I don't know if he's gonna make the Hall of Fame though. So that's pretty tough. But I do think AB was without a doubt the most talented receiver there. Chris Godwin's gonna be a really interesting name to see come this off season. He's kind of like in the Allen Robinson thing years ago. If people might remember, I think that was like 2015 or something like that. Allen Robinson like tore his ACL with the Jags. They didn't bring him back. And then he ended up signing a pretty big contract with the Bears and has been lighting it up since. So we'll see if Chris Godwin is kind of in that same category now, tearing his ACL, and see if he gets a big payday or if he comes back to the Bucks. But
well, one
overall,
question
man,
before we go. One question.
yeah.
Where, if anywhere, is Antonio Brown playing next year? Where, if anywhere?
Oh, that's a good. Well, that's the thing, Rays, because like I feel like if he's coming back, he's what, like 32 or something like that now, or whatever he is. He's probably going to want to go to a contender. Like, I mean, that's like, I feel like where his head is at. If he is going to come back, he's going to want, and like, I just don't know how many contenders actually want him. I honestly don't know if he's playing in the NFL again. And you know what? Not at all. I'm going to say he's not playing in the NFL again. I don't think he plays another snap. I think he's done. Do you think he goes somewhere?
For me, I think beggars can't be choosers. I think if the Houston Texans give him a call, he would gladly accept that. I mean, I don't think he could be picky whatsoever.
That'd be crazy.
He'd earned at that right. He'd be lucky to just get a call from anyone. It'd be interesting to see, honestly, if anyone in the CFL kicks tires on him. As
wow,
he is,
okay,
to say the least.
We're bringing it back. We're going back to the home roots here.
He'd sell a lot of tickets, and he'd get the people talking. So, which sometimes isn't a great thing, but sometimes the CFL takes flyers on these guys. But at the same time, I kind of don't think AB would be willing to do that. But just something to think about, maybe AB at the Toronto Argos or something. I don't know. Fun idea. Super
scorching hot take to end the Nargo season. Deshaun Watson doesn't get traded. He comes back. He plays. Antonio Brown gets picked up by the Houston Texans. D-Watt is throwing to Antonio Brown in 2022. Book it. That's how we're ending it.
Trade Davis Mills to my Minnesota Vikings.
And that would be the way to. That's a perfect way to end it, man. Taylor, man, we ran a little bit over time, but thank you very much to you, sir, for helping me out in the inaugural season here, man. We're very grateful for you, man, and you've been generous with your time. Hopefully we can have you on again next season. And thanks very much to all the co-hosts and the guests that I brought on. Everybody helping me out early on in the career here. Be sure to like, subscribe, tell a friend, and we will see you again very, very soon. Hopefully we can do something in the playoffs or something like that. We'll see. But thanks very much for watching. And Taylor, thanks very much, man. Have a good night.
My pleasure, man. You too.
Thanks for listening to The Final Drive. We'll see you guys next season.